Nina.
Who was disagreeing with me about Hydras?
Scarlett. He was in Twitch chat talking about how, oh, casters don't like Hydras. What is this? You know.
I mean, I get flagged when I love the Hydra. I get flagged when I don't love the Hydra. Like, you can never win pro gamers, me.
Anyways, the bottom left, teamless Protoss player. It's Nina.
I am a lover of the Hydra, but I'm also a lover of the Roach Ravager. In the top right side, we are looking at the main base of one of the favorites to win it all in the American regionals. This is Shopify Rebellion's Scarlett. Opening things up with a hatch first at the gold, by the way, Bia.
Clearly, she's been talking to Dark. Or Bly, or actually, this is just Scarlett is also. It's funny, you know, Roddy. Back when I got into StarCraft, Scarlett was the reason I got into StarCraft back in like 2013. But back then, she was just this macro beast, doing such a good job. Like her 3-hatch ZVT build was what got me back into gold, like back in the day. And now, like, yeah, she did that for a while, and then all of a sudden, she starts doing crazy stuff, cheeky stuff, aggressive stuff. 2-base swarm host knocked parting out of Red Bull Battlegrounds back in the day. And it's kind of funny because whenever I think of Scarlett, I'm like, ah, yes, macro, really solid Zerg macro play. That is so far gone from how she plays right now that it's I'm just stuck in the past, Roddy. I got my walker, I got my cane, I got my gray hairspray to make me look older than I am. You know, it works out.
Yeah, it's very difficult to predict how Scarlett is going to approach a ZVP. Like historically, some of the epic series that she played against Neep, sometimes all macro, sometimes incredibly aggressive, very borderline cheesy, and a lot of different all-ins. I haven't seen too many high-level ZVPs from her on this map pool. I don't know what she loves. I can only assume that it's probably similar feelings to a lot of the top-tier European Zergs, where it just feels that if Protoss gets properly set up on 4 bases, Immortals, Archon, Storm, it becomes incredibly difficult to figure out what unit you're even supposed to build. People don't really believe in Ultras against a lot of Immortals. People don't believe in Lurkers because Lurkers just get A-moved. And Broodlords are just not what they are used to be. So then I almost feel that everyone wants to be aggressive, right? Letting a Protoss truly stabilize on 4 bases or more could be very intimidating.
But Roddy, you know, you talk about this. Scarlett built the balance mod for the, you know, for the balance council. So clearly, you know, it's got to be good for her, right? Like, anyways, so Nina
she
now
might just be following orders, though. She may not actually agree with them, but she may just follow them.
Clearly, you know. Anyways, the adepts are going to show up right now, and I like this adept pressure, right? Because, well, the gold base is very exposed from multiple different angles. So you put the adepts in, you force things around, you maybe try to shade up into the main base, you take advantage of just how far away the main base is from that, I don't know, we call it the naturals, sure. And that's what Nina's going to lean into, right? 2 adepts early, doesn't get a lot done, but Oracle's getting at it in behind this. You've got your pretty safe 2 bases, 3rd base on the way for Nina. And the question we ask ourselves, Roddy, is, oh, nice trap there from Scarlett's going to get 1 adept. Actually, get both. Makes it a little harder to hold on to the 3rd. How much can Nina get done when the bases are separated, before the creep is together? And for right now, the answer is just not a lot.
Well, she's going to activate Pulsar Beam, grab 2 drones, but this pylon is going to die. And I actually think this next is going to fall as well, because I don't know if the Void Ray is going to be out in time. Void Rays take a long time. Oracle can't have too much energy anymore. It needs to activate Pulsar Beam, but if you activate it, that costs 25 energy in the end, and Nina will activate it. Still awkward though, right? -2 adepts. Now you went Oracle into Void Ray. You lost that pylon. That means you're not going to get shield batteries on the low ground for a long time. And even if Post-Youth may look like a long map and may feel like a large map, if Zerg players take the gold, it actually just takes them a quick hop and a step. And before you know it, all the Queens, Roaches, Ravages, and Lynx are in the 3rd base of the Protoss. And I have the feeling with Scarlett taking that gold as her first, getting creep already way out there, it's going to be so hard for Nina to stabilize on 3 bases and properly defend it.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because yes, I think the late game, you're right. Once you get to like 175 supply, it becomes, I mean, this Oracle getting as low as it is, getting 4 drones is a really nice result there for Nina. By the way, you talked about the Void Ray maybe not being out in time, so Ling pressure on the 3rd can be a problem. Nina's not stopping at a single Void. There's a 2nd one on the way here. And with the Queens walking, the Ravagers being made, how do you feel about this, Roddy?
I mean, it's going to be good to stabilize on 2 bases, but I don't really see the Void Rays being mega impactful on keeping the 3rd base alive. And I think if Scarlett just kills this Nexus, he might be happy, even if he's down in workers at the moment. I just don't really see what 2-base Protoss can accomplish. Void Rays are really not that good in low numbers against Queens, even if the Queens cannot transfuse each other. And Void Rays, it just takes forever to kill a Queen. Scarlett is going to think, can I go up this ramp? That's risky, because you have to worry about force fields, by the way, as well. But there are a bunch of Ravages in the mix. And the first force field doesn't really accomplish a whole lot. Scarlett is splitting off, I think, just her links right there, working on that Nexus, yeah. That Nexus is already dead, so I think at this point, Scarlett can just drone up. And as he can maybe drop her beloved Hydra then, and then maybe we'll see some Hydras. Because I would say that this is a decent game to go Hydras. But just more links, Roaches, Ravages, Queens, also fine. 3 base with a gold against 2 base Protoss.
Yeah, and I like what she's doing here. I mean, that force feels a little bit better. Ravager will fall. Roaches, yeah, there's a battle to knock it down. They're still going to be trapped. I do like the Scarlett. We're seeing Scarlett poking around, right? Trying to find whatever she can find, absolutely. But this is non-committal. She is transitioning behind this. But I do like that she made the ramp scarier for just about as long as possible. It'd be very tempting to say, look, I got the 3rd base. I'm not going to break this ramp. Why do I try backup? But by sitting there, it means that she can maybe get another pylon. Didn't happen. She can maybe get a couple more units dead or something, but it just delays the 3rd base. The retake there from Nina just a little bit longer. Now, Nina does have Blink, right? +1 is a ways away off, but her army can trade fairly well against this Ling Roach Ravager setup, so long as you're in a good position. And with the creep spread as good as it is, I mean, that's a little scary. Ravager battles are gonna go down. Force fields for now are something of a thing, but Scarlett, Nina, yeah, just blinks bottom side where there's not a lot there. One Ravager gets taken down pretty quickly. Oracle's dead, absolutely, but these Ravagers are very undefended, so one's gonna go down. Second one, Nina had, ooh, big biles. I thought she was gonna dodge those. But even still, all the Ravagers are dead, and Nina should be able to blink out of here now.
Yeah, but it's 2 base. 2 base Protoss, Blink Stalkers. I feel like if you ever go for a 2 base move out, you need to cherish every single unit. The sentries need to live for a long time. Every single Stalker needs to survive. When it is not going to accomplish a whole lot with Blink Stalkers on this much creep, as well as the Void Rays gets picked off as well by the Queens. And I think with all the extra links that Scarlett has been producing behind all of this, I don't really see a way for Nina to turn this into something. Nina is going to try. Nina always sticks around in games for a long time, trying to just make something out of an impossible situation. And in PvTs, I feel like she does an incredibly good job in that. I don't really know if there is any hope for Nina here, if there's any light at the end of the tunnel. You said it, the creep. I mean, we basically always say it when we cast Scarlett. The creep spread is insane. Lings are gonna either run into the main base or natural or both and get against with the 3rd base at the same time. I think game 1 is a wrap here.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I looked at that fight. I'm like, she's getting, Nina's getting all the Ravagers. This is great. Because I thought that there was a 3rd base on the way. I had assumed that Nina was going to take a 3rd base behind that, but she didn't. And now the 3rd base is halfway done for just about right now. It's going to get canceled very quickly. Nina not prepared for the timing coming out of Scarlett, and that means that Scarlett, Queen of Blades, she's up 1.
I think these builds on Post Youth are actually incredibly good. I've played a couple PvCs myself on this map, and when they take the gold, it's like, okay, the drones are a little bit exposed. And you're like, I can grab a few drones, but then the Queens are out, link count goes up. You're like, okay, that's what it is. And then 3 Cryptomas go forward, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is scary. I hope I'm not being attacked. Roaches and Ravagers show up so quickly. I think Scarlett played it well. Strong build order choice, good execution. I like that she stuck around at the bottom of the ramp, indeed delaying a potential new 3rd base of Nina. What I don't think was truly necessary was walking units up the ramp to then get force fielded in. Like, yeah, got a single pylon, but don't think that was really needed. But at that point, Scarlett was so far ahead that it didn't really matter. You asked me about the Void Rays. I almost feel that Void Rays are only ever good if we do something with a double Stargate. And I know that double Stargate Void Ray is not something we've seen in forever, and many fans would say thank the Lord for that, Roddy, because that was an awful meta when it was all about voids against Queens walking to the other side of the map. One Void Ray at a time being produced. I just only if they're like in a perfect spot with prismatic alignment, maybe then it can go somewhere. Other than that, one Void at a time just very rarely has a massive impact.
Yeah, you know, I'm so happy that the Void Ray meta was gone. I mean, even if Protoss wanted a trap, won a couple tournaments, got to some finals off that meta, but the games were super binary, right? It was just you win on the Queen Walk, you lose on the Void Rays. Really not all that great. The meta right now is a lot more dynamic, but also, you know, sometimes the Queen Walks, they'll still work. Sometimes the third base gets knocked down, you know. And honestly, with the Void Rays, I think they might have gotten Scarlett's third base, but they didn't turn on the prismatic alignment for quite a while. So that, you know, minimizes the damage. But now, Roddy, we get to move to Amphion.
Fourth base, no?
Sorry?
That was the fourth base.
Fourth base.
Scarlett has the in base as well.
Yeah. Sorry, the third base position.
At that point, my Protoss heart already died, man. All the hope was gone. I don't really believe that two-base Protoss with Voids and a couple Blink Stalkers can accomplish anything. Let's go ahead and hop into Amphion and hope we get a little more back and forth. And perhaps a longer game as well. In the bottom left side, this favorite living up to the hype so far, representing the Shopify Rebellion, taking the 1-0 lead convincingly. It is Scarlett.
And the upper left in the blue, looking to tie us up here. She's the Protoss player. It's Nina.
I hope that Nina can get one game going for herself where she has a proper 4-base setup with a couple cannons and batteries and double robo storm. Because Nina has always been, I think, very good in splitting up her army. Realizing how many units do I need on this side of the map, how many units do I need elsewhere, what can I afford to throw away to maybe find some damage on the other side of the map. That's the difficult part about Protoss. Protoss is pretty easy to play if you just dominate from the beginning. You have a plan, you stick to it, you spam gateway units, like, you know, not rocket science, BO, and there you can make your rocket science joke, mate. But that's doable for a lot of us. But splitting up the army and realizing how many High Templars to keep in the natural, second base, or third base, fourth base, that kind of stuff is really hard. And I've always been very impressed by Nina, her ability to play like late game Protoss properly.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Although, Roddy, I appreciate you teeing up a joke for me, but I am not... We're going to subvert expectations here. We're not going to talk about it. I do want to talk about Amphion, though, because, yeah, Ghost River is a weird map. You can take the gold base. You can leverage that into a push. Can be scary against Blink Stalkers, but Amphion is another one of these very weird maps. You can take your natural kind of just fine, but the natural's wide open. And, you know, Roddy, if there ever was a map, and I'm not saying Scarlett's going to do this, but if there ever was a map that was just begging for a Nidus, because there's so much spots that you can kind of hide a Nidus in the main base in that natural massive platform, this has got to be that map. Now, does Scarlett go for it? I don't know. But then you got to figure that that's in the back of Nina's head.
I hope that the viewers were able to hear you for all of that, because you actually disappeared for me twice during that speech. First about the rocket science and then about the Nidus, and I also heard some weird sounds. But you're back, so I'm gonna hope that it's good, and hopefully it was just me who missed what you said. TLDR Nidus, I mean, we saw Raynor Nidusing on this map, right? That worked out, and you're spot on. There are a lot of gnarly spots for Nidus, but if it is such a good map for Nidus, Protoss players often do think about it, and they start spreading their pylons a little bit more. And this is not Nina her first rodeo. She's been Nidused a couple times. I'm sure we're already thinking about it. We're gonna open things up though with a Twilight Council and maybe a Dark Shrine, so a good old Archon drop perhaps.
Yeah, this is there we go. Nice call. And this is kind of a hidden spot, right? You know, you generally scout the main base, you scout the natural. Scarlett should see the Twilight. The question though is whether she's gonna look even further. Like, she knows the Twilight's here, she knows the pylon's here. Okay, she's gonna continue, so yes, now she's aware that there is in fact a Dark Shrine on the map. That doesn't totally invalidate what's happening. It just means that Scarlett will have spores that will probably have a layer well timed enough to deal with all of this. Still can get stuff done, but Roddy, there's a reason that these Archon drops...
why are the adepts moving out? They could have... Ooh, that was scary. They could have actually been surrounded there by those 12 links. And I feel like that would be a very bad fight in the middle of nowhere for adepts. In the end, the adepts are still going to take this fight. Now, there is less surface area there than if they would have just been surrounded at the bottom of the gate. But I still think both adepts end up falling. And that's a bit uncomfortable if you want to go for a Dark Templar opening, because you obviously want to warp in DTs to then morph them into Archons. You know, being pretty adventurous with our adepts so far.
Yeah, you know, at the very least, it means that there's no pressure on the third base now. 9 drones or 9 lings did go down, so you trade them out. But Roddy, when we talk about this Archon drop play, right? They going like we are. One of the problems, I mean, there's a reason we don't see this all that much. It has to get damage done. Opening Twilight in general has to get damage done, and I like the idea from Nina. Look, I can warp in on the other side. I can go put pressure on your third base. But Scarlett scouted it. This singular DT is about to get just about nothing done. It's going to get out of detection range, so may not die. Oh, good trap there, Scarlett. Never mind. That's a dead DT. And yeah, you got to get something done with this. Nina getting nothing.
Yeah, we spoke a lot of time talking about Dark Templar drops, and obviously I'm the one who started that, but there was never a robo, so Nina clearly has a different plan in mind, where it's just like, go on, open up with some DT, sometimes even just a single DT, can swipe up a couple of drones, take the game from there. A problem when you're playing without a robo is overwhelming amount of roaches and lings. Like, stalkers can be very good if they're backed up by batteries and maybe some cannons against roaches and ravages in some numbers. But it's just easier for the Zerg to crank out a crazy amount of roaches than it is for the Protoss player to match those roach numbers with Stalkers. Stalkers is just a little bit more expensive. Without any robos or without proper static defense support, Nina's army is going to be a little bit flimsy. Scarlett just running for now, so nothing to worry about, but I am already a tiny bit concerned for 2 minutes from now.
I do like what Nina's doing, though. Again, we talked about this map being weird, open for Nidus play, but it's also open for stuff like this, where Nina dives in. Now, the creep is really well developed, so it's going to take a while for her to run away from it. But dives in, blink stalkers, get a couple drones, back up, maybe do it just a little bit later, although you'd love to have some detection. Now, there's no robo, and there's no Stargate, so there's no way for Nina to have any idea about creep clearing mobile detection whatsoever. But she slows down Scarlett just a little bit. +1 blink stalkers against a bunch of roaches can be pretty solid. But Scarlett, we saw Raynor do this, leapfrogging the mid game for the most part. Infestation pit on the way. Actually, you know what? I was going to say this looks like probably just lurkers, but swarm hosts on this map feel like they're going to be really good.
Yeah, I think Scarlett can still play this out in many different ways, and it really kind of just depends on maybe what he sees or what he really believes in on this map. We're about to figure it out as Nina does queue up Storm. I think the downside of firing up a quick hive and trying to go into lurkers is that you do take the chance that this is going to be a very long game. And Scarlett is going to decide against it. It is going to be Swarmos. There's a lot of creep also on the left side. You mentioned that. That means that the Swarmos can maybe just run all the way up here very quick. Fire a big wave of locusts into the main. There are a bunch of stalkers working on the hatchery. Hatchery finished up. Can Queens make it over in time? Stalker's just gonna stand here for a split second. And Nina gets the kill. Will pay the price for it with 3 stalkers, I believe it was in total. 4 have died throughout the entire game. Nice kill on the hatch, but that also means even less units to maybe deal with all these locusts that are gonna come her way.
I mean, stalkers against locusts don't really do all that much anyways.
It's something though, right? Something is better than nothing, Bio. Come on now.
Hey, look. There's only so much cope I can find, Roddy. But yeah, so Scarlett, first set of swarm hosts on that north side. We talked about that creep spread. She can get herself right up against the main base. And because Nina has been relying on the mineral wall as a wall, there's no way to get past it. So the swarm hosts, whenever they drop their locusts, this is feeling like a dead main base. Locusts are going to pop up just now. Nina does have a 4th base on the way, but getting what looks to be this amount of damage done, there's no recall, by the way. Nina spent it earlier on. This is a dead base. This is potentially a dead pylon as well, so Templar Archives maybe get shut down. 11 workers go down as well. The first hit with a swarm host getting this much damage done is a disaster for Nina.
What is this move out? The High Templars are going to get surrounded almost immediately by the Lings. There will be a couple storms going down on the top side, and the storms on the bottom side are actually very good, but I'm just afraid this is not enough Protoss. You lose a base, minus 13 probes, the 2 Archons are going to get picked up on creep. Nina still cannot use the recall. This move out was not it. Maybe Nina thought that Scarlett barely had an army besides the Swarmos. That was absolutely not the case. Now a Nidus has gone up in the top right. The second wave of Locusts is going to land. Scarlett might have to go for that battery first. That's exactly what she decides to do. And I think this Nexus will fall as well. As the DPS of Locusts has always been crazy, is still crazy. I'm afraid that Nina is just kind of running out of options here.
Yeah, you know, the first 7 minutes were pretty solid. DT doesn't get a lot done, but she kills the 4th base. Doesn't really lose all that much for it. Not really all that bad, but this is now a Nina on 2 bases. This is a Nina that has lost production, has lost tech. Blink Stalkers with +1 are technically pretty good against roaches, but in the numbers we're looking at, Roddy, it's 120. And yes, 21 of that supply is kind of fake when we talk about the Swarm Host, and the Storms are really good. But when we're looking, High Templar dying to Locust doesn't feel all that great. in the numbers that we're looking at, even if technically Blink Stalkers are good against roaches and all of these things, it doesn't matter. Scarlett has eviscerated. Oh, actually, wait a minute here. Getting on top of the Nidus doesn't matter. Not at all. I got it. You know, there's a world we were going to see like the supply drop by like 40 because you get both
but that
heads,
only happens if all the Nidus
Yeah.
networks dies. And there was one on the top right, there was one in the main. So I got the excitement there for a split second. Even then, I still think I fancy Scarlett her chances with all the bases against the one base Protoss. But that would have been cool, Bo. I'll give you that.
Yeah, see, I wasn't excited because I thought it was going to make Nina win the game or bring back into it. But it's just fun. Like, oh, look at that. 21 dead swarm or 7 dead swarm hosts, 21 dead supply just instantly. Now it didn't happen. And now, Rotterdam, we get to move to the more standard map, the most standard map we've had in this series, Alcyone. Map number 3 is Alnaga in the middle. Interesting gold base. Does Scarlett take the gold?
As her natural, no, I don't think so. I don't think that she's gonna do that here. Like, there is indeed a world where you can do that. We've seen a couple of Korean Zergs do it. I think Reina tried it once against Max Specs. Didn't really work out. No, I think Scarlett's just gonna take her natural or take the triangle and then eventually take her natural if she gets blocked. I do think we're gonna once more see Scarlett be aggressive because I think this is clearly her game plan. Scarlett, her mechanics have always been really good, no matter how much or how little StarCraft she plays. Creep spread 10 out of 10. When it comes to spending the money, she's always very good. When it comes to hitting sharp diamonds, I think Scarlett is always on point. And Nina is terrifying if you ever let her get that 4-base setup. And I think Scarlett knows that. Scarlett respects that, respects Protoss a lot. She's going to make sure that games don't get there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And in general, if you're just more confident in your setup as well, it's one of those things where, like, why would I let you get to the spot where you might be more comfortable? You know, I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna rely on my prep, on my mechanics, on everything else, and I'm just going. You have to earn this late game. I'm not gonna give it to you. But hey, we have another game. It's ready. It's Alcyone, Rotterdam. Maybe this is a 3-0. Maybe we see a comeback started. But for now, it's game 3.
Let's go ahead and hop on into it. In the top right side, we are looking at the main base of the favorite so far. Absolutely living up to all the hype and praise that we like to give her. This is Shopify Rebellion Scarlett. Oh, she is looking at that mineral walls. He might actually go for the gold. Sick.
Well, now in the bottom left, hoping to see that, yes, there is a hatchery in a weird spot. In the blue, down 2. It's Nina.
I'm really curious how Scarlett is going to play this out now. I feel like often when we see Zerg players take this as their first, then obviously they will be aggressive with that creep. It's going to make some very good progress almost immediately to the center or even creeping towards the third and natural of the Protoss. Will we just send it off hatchery tech, or do you think Scarlett is willing to just kind of macro a little and then go for later aggression on lair tech?
This often, when I see this happen, I feel like I see this gold base half the time because Dark does it a ton. It's almost as much of a bait as it is a play that because you're trying to make something happen yourself. It's like, look, I have this base, this gold base that you have to do something about that is very far away from my main. Wouldn't it be a shame if you build a Twilight and got some glaives and tried to punish it, and then you just build a bunch, you know what's coming, so you build a bunch of roaches and lings and smack that down, and then the Protoss player isn't in a great spot whatsoever. So I don't know if that's what Scarlett's going for, or whether she does have. You can also, of course, as you said, go for a queen walk onto the third. You can get your creep spread from the middle, and that can work out pretty well. But this often feels, you know, as much of a bait as it is an actual, you know, established play.
But I've seen some Protoss players do, but you can only really do that if you just bank on the fact that the Zerg is going to take the gold, is that they open up double gate before expand. Not a very common opening in this matchup, but if you just want to get those first 2 adepts out real quick, that's actually awesome, because then you can really properly slow down the mining of the gold. And even if you have a slightly later nexus, the Zerg is just getting next to no value of that gold for a little while, and then you can follow it up with a resonating glaive timing that is then going to be very difficult to deal with, even if the Zerg starts building roaches. I mean, we cannot ignore how far away this hatchery is from the main, so it's really difficult for a few roaches without roach speed to actually get on top of the depths.
Yeah, that's
Wow,
fair.
quick third base, by the way. Holy smoke. Sorry, Bio, to interrupt you there, but Nina is going up. No, not Scarlett. Scarlett's pretty normal. But Nina going up to 3 bases before minute 3 of 1 gateway, no wall off. Now, that's crazy.
And importantly, she has scouted nothing at all. She is totally in the dark about what's happening. And okay, so she is adding 2 additional gateways. Going up to 3 base after the third, or 3 gate after the third. Twilight as well. So this is just like, okay, Roddy, how many gases do we have? We have 2 gas. Is this just like a +1 charge thing with a better mineral economy than you might normally have?
I'd be surprised, but maybe. Honestly, I have not really seen this setup very often from a Protoss, so your guess is as good as mine, BL. I feel Blink Stalker slightly more likely, because Nina just wants to get into that like mid to mid late game, right? And Stalkers are very good defensively as well. If you just get a bunch of them with cannons and batteries, then it should be difficult for any Zerg build order to overrun you. But it can also be indeed quick Zealot charge +1. Still warping in Zealot, so that is indeed what it's going to be. Not sure how I feel about it, because Scarlett already has a Roach Wine. Roaches are going to be produced. Zealots are not good against Roaches, but what they can do is run away from them, so that's pretty awesome.
I wonder how often Nina has gone and played this. I've this quick of a third on Alcyone against a gold base, and maybe part of this is this assumption that Scarlett is going for the gold because it's a Zerg player on Alcyone and it happens a lot. So it's like,
it's
well,
wild though. It's just everything about this is wild because we didn't even make an adept either. If Mapple can just show the vision of Scarlett, excuse me, of Nina for a split second, this is the furthest that Nina has been out on the map. Like legitimately has been completely 110% in the dark. Does have a very cute shield battery, by the way, on the high ground of her main to protect probes at the third. That's awesome, but what's not so awesome is making a lot of Zealots against Roaches. Roaches are really, really, really good against Zealots. And I was joking earlier, but the only good thing about Zealots with charge is that they can run away. I'm afraid for Nina, though, that eventually she's gonna have to fight, and I see no universe where Nina wins the fight.
Yeah, okay, what does she have? She has 6 gateways, no more on the way at the moment. Charge done in 15 seconds, +1 done a little bit afterwards. She moves out to try to put some pressure on with units that are patently useless. And now Roaches and Ravagers and Queens are going to find their way. I mean, this is a solid surround on the Roaches, as best as you can find, like pinning them against a Nexus. There is that. Coming in from the backside as well. The problem is, Zealots against Roach, Ravager, Ling, Queen do, I'm not going to say nothing, Roddy, because some Roaches did die, but as close to nothing as you can get without being nothing.
Nope, we have a battery overcharge. Let's try to put in some work. Nina now fires up Blink, but Blink is just never going to finish up in time. Cute micro, obviously, here by Scarlett, morphing a couple of those low HP Roaches into Ravagers, so they get a little more tanky, but with or without all that micro, I think Scarlett always wins this fight. 74 armies fly against 14. I don't know what Nina was exactly hoping for. Maybe just a greedier version of Scarlett, her gold, or not taking the gold at all. I'm sure that she wasn't hoping for a whole bunch of Roaches produced of 39 drones. And just like that, it is all over. Scarlett with a clean sweep, 3-0. Incredible.